Good morning. I apologize, I'm a minute or two late. We are dealing with issues in my office this morning, as I'm sure you are aware. I would like to call us to order the meeting of the State of Nevada Board of Examiners for March 10th, 2020. Could I ask the clerk to take the roll, please?
Good morning, Governor.
Good morning.
Governor Sisolak,
Here.
Madam Secretary,
I'm here.
Attorney General Ford. He will not be attending the meeting today. He's traveling.
Oh, okay.
Let the record reflect we do have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Okay. This is the time set aside for public comment. First time. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item on today's agenda? Items on the agenda, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes.
Anybody in Vegas? Nobody in Vegas, Governor.
Nobody in Carson City? Boy, we've got a full crowd here and nobody to speak. Okay. Moving on to item number 3, approval of the February 18th, 2020 minutes. Secretary, do we have a motion for approval?
You do, Governor. You have a motion for approval of the minutes from the February 18th, 2020 meeting.
Any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4, state vehicle purchases.
Good morning, Governor, Secretary. This morning there are 2 items on the agenda. Item 1 for vehicle purchases from the Department of Administration Enterprise Information Technology Services Division has been withdrawn. The second request is from the Colorado River Commission for 1 replacement vehicle not to exceed $49,734. This vehicle meets the age requirements in SAM, and funds for the vehicle are included in the agency budget. Are there any questions on this item?
I move for approval, Governor.
We have a motion for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 5, authorization and contract with the current and/or former state employee.
This item includes 1 request to contract with a former employee. This request is from the Department of Administration Purchasing Division to contract with a former employee to perform revenue projection oversight and training for the Department of Taxation. This individual will be employed by Manpower through MSA number 18404. Are there any questions on this item?
None, and I move for approval, Governor.
Well, boy, this is going to go well. We have a motion on the floor for approval. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 6, approval of payment to the Secretary of the United States Treasury pursuant to Cash Management Act.
Item 6 is a request from the State Controller pursuant to Section 85 of Assembly Bill 543 from the 2019 legislative session to authorize the payment not to exceed $484,484 to the U.S. Treasury for interest owed under the Cash Management Improvement Act. The Cash Management Improvement Act ensures efficiency and equity between the time that federal funds are drawn and expended, with the state incurring an interest liability if it draws funds too early, and the federal government incurring a liability to the state if the state uses its funds for federal program purposes. The amount shown is the highest possible state liability for fiscal year 2019. The U.S. Treasury is reviewing the report submitted by the State Controller and should provide a final determination by March 16th. If the calculations by the State Controller are accepted by the U.S. Treasury, the federal government will owe the state $2,066. Last March, the board approved a payment not to exceed $255,302 for fiscal year 2018, and the final amount was a payment to the federal government in the amount of $226,753. Are there any questions on this item?
I have none, and I'll move for approval, Governor.
We have a motion on the floor for approval. I just want to make a record clear that this is an up to, not to exceed $484,484. It's expected, if the calculations are accurate, it's $2,066.
That is correct.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 7, request for recommendation of approval to Dinner Finance Committee for an allocation amount from the contingency account.
This item includes 1 request for a positive recommendation to the Interim Finance Committee pursuant to NRS 353.268. The general fund contingency account has an approximate balance of $26.8 million to cover unanticipated costs for the remainder of the 2019-2021 biennium. If this item is approved, the remaining balance in the account will be approximately $26.7 million. This request is from the Department of Business and Industry, Office of the Labor Commissioner, in the amount of $71,465 to continue to cover costs related to the Task Force on Employee Misclassification arising from the passage of Senate Bill 493 of the 2019 legislative session. Are there any questions on this item?
Do you have any question? None?
I don't have any. I'll move for approval, though.
That's great. I appreciate you. We have a motion for approval on item number 7. Any discussion? Hearing, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 8, request for designation of bad debts.
Most state agencies turn their uncollectible debt over to the state controller, who has the authority to request the Board of Examiners write off bad debt that has become impossible or impractical to collect. Bad debt under the purview of the state controller cannot be removed from the state's books unless the Board of Examiners designates the bad debt as uncollectible. NRS 463.123 requires the Gaming Commission to report the debt determined to be impossible or impractical to collect to the Board of Examiners for the designation of bad debt. Upon such designation, the clerk shall notify the state controller to remove the debt from the state's books. This item includes one request to designate debts as bad debt under the provision of NRS 463.123. The request is from the Nevada Gaming Control Board to designate $44,688.56 as bad debt for the purpose of removing the 5 debts from the state's books. Are there any additional questions on this item?
I have none, and I just want to tell you, Governor, that your staff answered all my questions again.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. I want to, for those who are either present in Las Vegas or in Carson City, we're moving through this quickly, but we do have an extensive briefing ahead of this meeting individually where staff usually answers our questions and thus making it a little easier during the meeting. So that is the reason. Item number 9, approval of proposed leases.
There are 3 leases under agenda item 9 for approval by the board this morning. Are there any additional questions on these items?
I have none, Governor, and I'll move for approval.
You have none, but you have a motion for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 10.
Item number 10 includes 28 contracts for approval by the board this morning. Are there any questions on any of these items?
Let me go back. I'm going to throw you a curve here. I do have it's more of a comment on item number 19. Do we have anybody here on 19 from the Clark County School District or Department of Corrections?
This is,
Good morning. This is more of a comment than it is a question. This is, my understanding, a program that Corrections has worked with our school district for our reentry of our inmates, our trustees. And do we have any statistics on the success or the viability of this program?
Good morning, thank you. My name is John Barman. I'm the Deputy Director of Support Services for the Department of Corrections. Deputy Director Brian Williams was unavailable today. I apologize for that. But he did put some information together for us to represent this particular request. We do track the success of this particular program. It is not the only school district in the state that provides this service to inmates within the Department of Corrections, but this particular one is from Clark County. It is for the youthful offender, those are people that are under the age of 21, and we do provide credits not only towards their education, enrollments of over 200 in 2017, just under 300 in 2018. And then currently, well, it looks like about 144 up through the end of SFY 19 in Clark County, in this particular program, not including all the school districts. And we have given, say in 2019 with 144 enrollees, 253 particular credits towards their education. 10 of them did get high school equivalencies, 12 of them did get high school degrees, and 11 of them did get vocational certificates.
Well, I just want to, not just specifically as it relates to the CCSD contract and participation, but want to thank you for the program in general, that it's helping especially our youthful offenders get some education while they're incarcerated, so that hopefully we can not see them back in our facilities again and reduce recidivism. So I think this is an investment on the front end that is well spent in terms of return for the families and the individuals that are affected by the services that you're providing. So on behalf of my office, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions, Secretary?
No, as I said, Governor, your staff did an excellent job of answering my questions, and I find it very interesting that you and I had similar questions on this one, so thank you again for stating them.
It's my pleasure, thank you, and it's an important function, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Do we have a motion on this one?
Yes, I move for approval, Governor.
We have a motion for approval on item number 10. Any discussion? Hearing, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 11, approval of proposed master service agreements.
There are 11 master service agreements in Agenda Item 11 for approval by the board this morning. Are there any questions on any of these items?
I do not have any questions. Do you have any questions?
I have none, and I'll move for approval.
We have a motion for approval on item number 11. Any discussion? Hearing, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 12, information item, clerk of the board contracts.
There were 40 contracts under the $50,000 threshold approved by the clerk between January 18th, 2020 and February 14th, 2020. This item is informational only. Is there any additional information requested for any of these items?
I do not have any, but I did have some, and you answered all my questions. So do you have any, Madam Secretary?
No.
Just acknowledge for the folks that are here, I know that some of you just see Susan and her team sitting here thinking that they make us look good, and they do. But they are very efficient and terrific in terms of providing information to us when we have questions. I always get back to us immediately. So this is an information item. Thank you very much. Item number 13.
Item number 13, this informational report is on overtime and accrued compensatory leave for the second quarter of fiscal year 2020. My staff summarized the report into a two-page summary, so I will not read all of the details, but I will hit a few highlights. For the first half of fiscal year 2020, overtime pay and leave have accounted for a total of approximately $25.66 million, which is 4.55% of total pay. This is a slight increase from fiscal year 2019. The Department of Corrections had the highest amount of overtime and comp time at $4.37 million, or 9.7% of their base pay for the second quarter. This is an increase from the same period last year of $1.15 million, followed by the Department of Health and Human Services at $2.73 million, or 3.19% of base pay. This was a slight decrease from the same period of last year. Those two agencies accounted for approximately 56% of the overtime for the quarter. At the Department of Corrections, overtime and comp time at the 7 locations on page 2 accounted for 84.7% of the total overtime for the department. By event code, the highest 4 causes on page 2 accounted for 85.5% of the overtime at the Department of Corrections. And the Department of Health and Human Services, the 4 event codes on the bottom of page 2 account for 77%.
Agencies to reduce this overtime where possible by hiring on the front end. So, do you have any questions, Secretary?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. That's an information item. That completes our action items. Item number 14 is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any in Las Vegas?
No, and we have a room full, sir, but we do not have anybody that does not want to come up and talk to us.
Okay. Do we have any in Carson City? Anyone want to speak for public comment? It's been 16 minutes, this meeting. Anybody have any questions?
Is this a record, Governor?
I think it might be. Hearing and seeing none. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Yes, you do, sir. I move for adjournment.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks.
Wash your hands, prepare, and don't panic. Thank you.